is recorded and live streamed. I'd like to ask Stacy Root to call roll, please.
Thank you. Excuse me, Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Councilmember Dunn,
Here.
Mayor Frizzell,
Present.
Labor Representative Julian, Mayor Marine,
Here.
Councilmember Merrill, Mayor Naring,
Here, thank you.
Councilmember Peterson, Mayor Roberts.
I'm here. Thank you.
Councilmember Schweddy.
Present.
Chair, there is a quorum of board members. For our board alternates, we have online or in the room, Councilmember Gallagher. And, okay. And I don't believe I see anybody else. Chair, that concludes roll.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll go into public comment. Each speaker has 3 minutes to provide comments. Remarks must be relevant to agency services, programs, projects, or activities. In the room, is there anybody that would like to have 3 minutes to speak to the board? You guys want to go home too, right? Okay, got it. How about online? Is there anybody online that would like to speak to the board? None? Okay. We will move on to the CEO's report.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate everybody being here today on a beautiful summer day. We got a couple of important topics to queue up for you today. We've had numerous inquiries over the past couple of years about our youth outreach program, and you'll all recall fondly the old Oxygene program we used to have, reaching out to elementary school kids. That was very popular. That retired during COVID, and so we have replaced that youth outreach program with a new and more focused effort to connect with middle school and high school kids and teach them how to ride the system and proper conduct and how they can use transit to get around. And so we're going to get a report on that program today. It's been real successful, and we're real proud of it, and we hope you will agree once you hear the briefing. And then we're going to have a SWIFT program update. We're going to touch base on how the system is doing overall. SWIFT is the workhorse of our system. We've seen significant ridership increases over the past couple of years. The customer response to the investment we've made have been robust, and I think it's showing the case that frequency matters in transit. And then we're going to focus as well on our active projects, particularly the SWIFT Gold Line and the SWIFT Green Line. So looking forward to getting the board up to date today. We are going to be going out and doing some public engagement, in particular on the SWIFT Gold Line in September after Labor Day. And so this is the board's opportunity to get a briefing on where that project is, what we have under consideration, and staff's initial thoughts on routing and station locations. So important topics today. Looking forward to the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I guess we'll move on to the presentations. Youth program update with Jeff Patrick. Sorry.
Good afternoon, board members. We're super excited to kick off today's workshop with a chance for you to get a look inside our youth engagement program. With me, here's my colleague, Natalie Lawrence, and she's going to do most of the honors here. The transition that Rick referenced of moving from a program that was focused on younger kids and, included a mascot that was kind of a trend, I guess, in transit, is one that I think is bearing out big time. And, being the parent of two 14-year-old daughters, I can testify firsthand that with the ingredients of a little bit of encouragement and some very strong innate desires of kids these days to be independent, and the ubiquitousness of handheld devices and free youth fairs, those are ingredients that could be put together that we hope will be seen over time to create not just short-term transit riders, but lifelong transit riders. And with what I've seen with my own kids and their confidence getting out there and around and about on transit, I it's no surprise to me that we're getting the kind of results that Natalie's going to tell you about, including, you know, how she's structured the program and what makes her visits so popular among all these kids. So take it away, Natalie.
Thank you. So my name is Natalie Lawrence. I am the youth program marketing strategist. I work on the marketing programs team led by the beloved Philip Jeffries. And then I'm part of the greater communications, marketing, and engagement department led by Jeff. Every month, I send out a program update, and I always include a teen phrase or word of the month, and I'm convinced that's why my colleagues read my program report. So if you didn't know what bussin' means, it actually means really cool or impressive. So I have lovingly named our youth program Bussin' Basics. So this is what's on the screen when kiddos walk into the room. I started at Community Transit about a year and a half ago to build out a different type of youth program for us. As mentioned, I'm sure many of you remember the Oxygene and the incredible presentations he did for young kids, but the current program is focused on middle and high school age students. With young people riding for free across Washington, thanks to the Climate Commitment Act passed in 2022, we really wanted to reach young people who might actually be able to use transit now independently, that might also be a few years out from being able to drive, but might be yearning for a little bit more independence. We also want to help young people form some habits now to hopefully make them lifelong riders. So part of preparing for this program was meeting with counterparts from around the country to learn about existing youth programs. I met with 15 or so professionals from all over to hear what was working well in the world of youth engagement, what learnings they had. And of course, a lot of internal collaboration also happened. So presented to several teams within my department, learned a lot about the youth marketing that had already been taking place, learned about the wonderful assets that our creative and brand team had made to help youth learn that they ride for free. So a lot of internal collaboration. And after some of that, I developed a presentation that could be easily customized and replicated for schools all over. So once version 1 was complete, I presented to 5 teen groups from around the county. So this included teen advisory boards, youth committees, youth volunteer groups, and had some help identifying those. So Jam Young in Public Affairs was really helpful in building some connections, as was Chelsea in Community Engagement in helping make some intros to different youth serving organizations. And from these groups, we gathered feedback with a survey that our research and analytics team helped us build. And we ended up collecting feedback from about 150 teens, and they had really thoughtful things to say about the presentations. And gathering all of that feedback, we iterated, we made changes, and arrived at our more current program. So we presented to our first school last March. So we've been doing programming now for over a full year in schools. A big piece of student feedback was that the presentation needed to move a little bit faster, and they also wanted a hands-on opportunity during the presentation. So last summer, with the support of employee engagement and the entire transportation department, we opened up a position for current operators to apply to called the Youth Engagement Specialist Driver, or YES driver. And it was pretty impressive. I think 19 or so operators applied, and we asked them to come prepared to their interview with a presentation that they would deliver to a middle school audience that would help teach them about transit basics. And so many operators expressed an interest in working with kids, and so many had wonderful presentations. 4 knocked it out of the park with their very inclusive language and enthusiasm. So this is the current YES team. So we have Titus. We actually have Mike. Mike, do you want to stand up? Raise your hand. Mike's in the building. Yay, Mike! Mike joined me actually earlier today at the Lake Stevens Boys and Girls Club, and he did one of his great presentations there. So I'm happy to have him in the audience. Dave is next, and then on your right is Tony. So, and we actually have a group chat with the name Yes. That's a fun part of my job, is communicating with them. So 1 or 2 of these drivers joins me at every school presentation. And now I'll kind of talk through what it looks like when we go to a school. So we start off with a 30-minute in-class presentation that I deliver. This is the Bussin' Basics portion. This is actually at Explorer Middle School this winter. This covers everything from letting students know they ride for free to how to plan a route to basic rider etiquette and safety. We equip them with the knowledge they need to safely access public transit on their own. We reiterate to, of course, never ride alone if they don't have to, and to always get permission from the trusted adults in their life or their guardians before riding independently. The main message we like to convey is that transit is their way to access more opportunities for themselves. So diving into a bit more of what we cover, I know there's a lot on there, but we really move through a lot in this presentation. Wanted to list it out here just for you to take a look. We go through a lot of community transit specific information, but everything they learn can be easily applied when they use transit anywhere else in the world. I like to kick off the presentation with a series of photos of cool places they can get via public transit, like University of Washington or Pike Place Market, or even Whidbey Island. And they really go through Transit 101 during this portion. We cover what a fixed route is, how we work with other agencies like Sound Transit and the Washington State Ferries and Everett Transit. Each presentation is customized based on where the school is. So if it's a school with easy access to light rail or nearby Linwood City Center Station, we'll talk, often the trip we plan as like an imaginary trip will actually be to Linwood City Center Station, and we'll talk to them about where they can get to from light rail if they decide to make that journey. And if it's a school that's near a Swift line, we'll also talk about the differences between Swift and our regular local service routes. So this was at a Boys and Girls Club. We know that participating in a sport or after-school program increases a student's likelihood of graduating high school. So we try to make it really clear to students that transit can be the difference maker in their lives. It can, be the difference maker in their lives now and in the future as they want to get more involved in extracurriculars. It can even make a difference if they need to find another way to get to and from school. And this has been a really helpful thing to communicate to schools that are maybe having a hard time with good attendance. And so we tell kids that, hey, if you ever miss your bus, there's another way that you can get yourself to class, because we know how important being at school every day they can really is. And as you can see from the photo, we're actually talking to them in this moment about who service ambassadors are. So that's another important part of the presentation, is introducing them to the different type of transit professionals they might see when they're out riding in the wild, and making sure they know who they can go to for help if anything ever happens that makes them feel unsafe while riding. After we wrap up inside, we take the whole group out, rain or shine, to board the real bus. And from here, we'll break a classroom or a group of students into two. One group stays out with me and we do a bike rack demo, and we often run timed contests to see who can get the fastest bike secured on the rack. The record right now is 4.05 seconds, which is wildly fast. And then while I'm doing bike rack demonstrations, the other group is on board with a Yes driver, learning a little bit more about key bus features, rider etiquette, and safety. And the drivers really highlight the difference between a public bus and a school bus. And I think most importantly, this is a student's opportunity to make a connection with a real driver, someone they might actually see driving in the wild when they decide to use transit. And I think having the operators be such a big part of this program has really changed what I focus on, because I hear from them what questions they get from young people, what behaviors they're seeing from young people. So I feel like it's really helped inform what we focus on when we're doing school programming. Couple more pictures. This is at Granite Falls Boys and Girls Club, and on the right is Mike at Lake Stevens High School. So school is out for summer, which means we wrapped our first full year of school programming. It was a busy and wonderful year, and we really hit our groove. We visited 37 schools throughout the county. This included schools in Darrington, Stanwood, and even the one schoolhouse in Index. Through 101 hours of in-person programming, we handed out 5,498 youth Orca cards. This means that over 5,000 people this school year got to board a real bus while at school in a stress-free environment, got to meet a real coach operator, try out the bike rack, and learn bussin' basics. So I'll go into youth Orca cards a little bit. The unique thing about the youth audience is that they don't actually need to use a youth Orca card to access free fare. The policy is they can just hop on. And of course, that's been a hard thing to communicate around the region. And I know for operators, it can be hard to tell if a teen is actually 18 or younger. So in our presentation, we like to explain to students the importance of using their youth Orca cards and tapping every time they ride. We tell them that tapping their youth Orca card is a way they can make transit better. And it's their way to vote for continuing free transit for youth, because then we can collect some really good data to show policy officials and government officials just how important this free resource is to young people. We also remind them that if they ever forget their card or don't use it, that's totally fine. They still ride for free, but we do tell them to give the driver a heads up when they board. Let the driver know that they're under 18, that they're in 8th grade, whatever they want to say that helps the operator know they ride for free, just so they can avoid any miscommunications. Our team has a great database where we see how people are using the different Orca card promotions we've offered. So I pulled some of that information to share. So when we started delivering youth presentations or around that time, from that we've generated 38,000 boardings from 1,683 cards. And based on all of the youth Orca cards we distributed, we have a 13% card utilization rate, which might not sound like much, but I view this as progress because it means that any amount of young people are actually tapping their Orca card, which is really exciting to me. And I'm really committed to growing this number. Of course, this doesn't capture all of the boardings. This is just the data we have from cards distributed through this program. So we, of course, know that overall youth ridership is much higher than these numbers reflect. So where we were all year, we visited schools all over, as I mentioned. Having a free program about an already free resource makes this a much easier thing for educators to say yes to. This being said, schools are so busy and they do a lot, understandably, to protect student time. So the key to growing this program thoughtfully will continue to be referrals and warm recommendations from other teachers. Another key part is identifying the right point of contact at each school. So we're continuing to build out our database and key contacts, and a goal before the end of 2025 is to have presented to at least one school in every district within the county. A few learnings from our first full year of programming. This is my favorite photo. It's T2 signing an autograph at Meadowdale High School. This was at the request of a student. He actually had like a line behind her waiting for his autograph. Another main learning was that we needed a parent letter. So some communication that was helped. Our external communications team kind of helped me write that one, and we distribute that to teachers to then send home to parents and guardians so they know exactly what we talked to their kiddos about that day, what we didn't tell them, and to make sure that all of that information is kind of included into all of the students' family units. Another thing, I am just constantly impressed and encouraged by younger generations. They have places to be, and I think it's up to us adults to help them get there. Transit has the ability to change anyone's life for the better, but I think that's especially true for a teenager who otherwise might not have opportunity or mobility. And the other big learning is that it's very hard to make a 13-year-old laugh. No amount of SpongeBob clips can crack the exterior of a 13-year-old. Again, with the support of our research and analytics team, we put together a 1-minute survey, so something short enough that even the busiest teacher could have time to take it. And we send this out along with the parent letter after we visit every school. Some were kind enough to write short testimonials, and I wanted to share this one. I especially loved this teacher's comments because she mentions fun and relevance, and I feel like those two words were some of our biggest kind of guiding words as we were thinking of how to develop a teen-focused engagement program. So towards the end of the school year, we learned that we might need more yes drivers. We actually just posted that a few days ago. We especially need more drivers who work Monday through Friday during school hours to help us out. So another shout out to transportation here for their support of this program. It would truly not be possible without their collaboration and buy-in. I'm so grateful that Jim and Alex and their incredible team has been so enthusiastic and supportive. Everyone, especially in like scheduling and staffing, they do a lot to support these events because it's a lot of organization to bring a bus out to so many schools, especially on the weeks that we're 5 schools Monday through Friday. So huge thank you for their support. Really makes this possible. My vision for the program is that it's part of every middle school curriculum, and that in 2 to 3 years, we're able to visit every middle school at the same time every year so that we know every 7th grade student in Snohomish County gets information on how to safely access public transportation. And then we will, of course, continue to iterate this program so that it stays relevant and fun for kiddos. As I mentioned, school's out for summer, which has given us a little bit of time to do other fun things. So outside of this school program, we've partnered with Snow Isle Libraries this summer to deliver transit tales, where we read transit-themed children's books on board a bus at local libraries. It's as cute as it sounds. I have 2 undergraduate interns joining me this year. Ivan, Aiden, do you want to wave? Amazing. Ivan and Aiden, they're both undergraduates at UW, go Dogs. And other activities include ride-alongs with service ambassadors. We sometimes bring teen groups to the ride store to see the work that they do in person, and lots of Boys and Girls Club presentations and other community-based organizations collaboration. Other happenings, part 2. Our school program was nominated as a finalist at the Association of by the Association of Commuter Transportation. So I'll be going down to New Orleans for that conference in August to hopefully take home the win and learn a lot about other programming. And like I said, working at the Boys and Girls Club to present to every club in Snohomish County this year. And we're also attending a lot of back to school resource events. And I should mention that in our application to the Association of Commuter Transportation Awards, we included all of our school programming photos, what the coach operators do in schools, and also all of the amazing marketing and brand work that comes from the rest of our department. So all of the materials that they create that we send home with kiddos that really help reinforce their learning. So it takes kind of all types of ways to reach young people. And I feel like with the talents of our whole department, we're able to do that. This is my last slide, and this is just a LinkedIn post that I wrote as we wrapped up the end of this school year. I was actually feeling a little emotional about it, and I'll probably get emotional again. I really love my job. I love what I get to do. Young people are so important to the future. It's so important that we help them get to where they need to go. And we know that transit is a really big difference maker in people's lives. And so I feel so grateful for my managers, Jeff, Jennifer, and Philip, for kind of allowing me autonomy and freedom to try things, to grow this program, to throw some spaghetti at the wall, and feel so grateful to work for an agency committed to doing such good work in the community. My job is amazing, and the people I get to do it with are also really amazing. So thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. It's a great presentation, and I think I have to apologize for what you must have had to go through downtown Lake Stevens today to get to the Boys and Girls Club.
There was a little construction. Yeah.
Just a little bit of construction. Yeah, I went down there and it was horrid. So thank you for going out there, though. We appreciate it. And thank you to your driver for putting up with whatever happened down there. I don't have any questions at this time. You had such a great presentation, but would anybody else on the board like to ask any questions? Tom?
Not so much. Well, I do have one question, but I wanted to lead off first by your message is getting out there, because just this week I got an inquiry on who to talk to at Community Transit to set up a presentation at the school in Snohomish.
Excellent. Perfect.
So I directed them to your website. So hopefully you heard from somebody, or will hear from somebody asking for that. My question is, it seems to me like the Orca card for these particular kids should be a mobile app. Because they will always have their phone. Have you given any consideration to that, or where are you at on that consideration?
I wish I had a better answer. I
Oh.
think that Orca cards are supposed to be ready to go on iPhone ahead of the World Cup next summer, is my understanding.
Mhm.
So I think when that's introduced, we'll definitely have some exciting updates for this audience.
Mhm.
Anecdotally, I will say that it's interesting to see kids in this age of technology actually get excited about a physical thing that they can put in their wallet, especially middle schoolers who do not yet have a driver's license or much else to put in their wallet. They actually, I feel like when I do hand some cards out, you see some kids like pull out their phone case, put it in behind their phone case. But I am hopeful that with the Apple Wallet edition, that'll help kids from losing their cards.
I want my comment on that. Not being an Apple fan and using Androids, the iPhone doesn't impress me.
Joe? Yeah, thank you. First of all, I don't know how you got connected, but I'm glad you did. You're perfect for the position. So thank you for your passion and that's why it will be successful. So,
Thank you.
and then I want to say, what happened to that Oxygen outfit, that uniform? Because we could do OxyNat,
Yeah.
right? She could totally wear that.
I will say for Transit Tales, we dress up as jungle creatures because one of the books we read is about a leopard who drives a bus. So the interns got a real experience in, how to be a professional marketing person by going to the library with me and painting their face like tigers. So we do still have some costume flourishes.
Yeah. Anyway, I missed the Oxygen being in all the different parades around in the community, and I think it got people really thinking about it. And along that line, there's a number of communities, I think most of us have festivals or events that with parades and so forth. And I know in September we have the Lighthouse Festival with a small parade. And I think Community Transit usually has a booth out there, but a great way to interest, there's always a lot of kids and we would have liked them to take the bus to the festival. So even more encouragement that way. So hopefully you're hooked up with some of those as well, right?
Yeah, and I work on the same team as our wonderful Jennifer McCoy, who supports kind of our whole calendar of field marketing events. And one of my favorite parts of the job is going to those community festivals, making connections there and getting to talk to,
Especially the Lighthouse Festival.
especially the
Yeah,
Lighthouse
for
Festival.
sure.
Yes. And
Okay.
Aquafest, that was a good time too.
Thank you very much now.
Thank you.
Christine?
So you are just enthusiasm brimming over, and I can see why kids are connected to that. So thank you for being with us and doing that. I too have a question about the 13% utilization of Orca cards, and is there any way you could do like a lottery, once a week you draw an Orca card and they get a Starbucks card, or just something low scale, but people love to see where they won something.
That's a great idea. And I'll be hopefully rolling that out in the next 2 to 3 years. I'll file that one away. We have thought about how we could do different school-based contests, like something around Earth
Oh,
Week, where
yeah.
we have classes competing against each other, and then community transit sponsors like an on-ice picture with this Everett Silvertips hockey team or something experiential like that. That could also be another way to bring in different parts of the community. But I think you're right on the money. Kids like a little contest and definitely like Starbucks. So
All right.
thank you for
And
that idea.
you started off your comments with creating lifelong transit riders, and I think it does take starting young to get people familiar with riding a bus and the ins and outs and the safety aspects and how to get lost and how to get found again, and that helps when they've got somebody like you and the bus drivers that uh, have become the yes drivers are on board with that. And thank you back there to the interns. You're working hard. Thanks for taking care of our kids.
Megan?
Thank you. Well, appreciate the presentation, no cap. I just want to throw, I'm just kidding. That means no lying. No, it was all inclusive. Yeah. But, I like that I engaged drivers. It sounds like there was some, momentum from that. So I don't know. It sounds like that would be good for you to share with all the groups that you reached out to, like what made your program a success. But I was wondering also in the education, do you also share like how to, I know the goal is to get more bus riders, but they'll also be drivers soon. So do you also share like how to share the road, how to teach how to share the road with bus drivers?
We don't actually go into that. And that's another nugget I'll file away from this. Yeah,
Great.
that's a
Thanks.
great point.
Jen?
I just have one quick thing. I really encourage the board that if she, Natalie is presenting in your city, to go to the presentation and see it. I went to the one in Everett, when, I think it was the first one you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, my niece was assistant principal there, but I was super, super impressed, and I would really, really encourage you that when you know that she is in your city, to stop in and hear what they're saying to the kids.
Well, and just, yeah, reach out, because we probably would go if we knew that you were
Yeah.
coming. Yeah. Great point.
Mhm.
That's true.
Okay.
Anything else from the board on this subject? Yep, great. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
All right, we will be moving on to the SWIFT program update. Rick?
Great. Well, thank you, Natalie, and thank you for your comments and feedback on the youth marketing program. And as Morgan and Chelsea come up, I wanted to kick this off a little bit by talking about the broader context and the importance of today's briefing. I alluded to it a little bit in my report to start the meeting. But I want to emphasize a few key things. We are fortunate all on this dais to represent and work for the interests of a thriving county. There's success everywhere you look. We're growing and doing great work at the municipal level and the county level. As leaders, we know that that brings challenges, right? We have to manage growth. We've got the cities represented here on the dais that have adopted comp plans to accommodate growth and bring more density into the cities. And all of us know what it's like to navigate the road network here in Snohomish County, even on the best of days. It takes a while to get from point A to point B, especially if you're trying to go north-south. So we, as a public transit provider, fortunately have some tools in the toolbox to help address the growth in this county and support the county in its efforts to continue growing and to provide a high quality of life and a thriving economy. And SWIFT is one of those tools. As a program, as I mentioned at the outset, it is the workhorse of our system. Everywhere we have brought SWIFT to the county, we've seen a strong customer response. The orange line is successful beyond our initial projections. People are using the extension of the blue line down to Shoreline. And of course, the blue line itself is the highest ridership line we have in the system. SWIFT connects to our neighboring properties. It connects to light rail, to King County Metro, to Everett Transit. And so when people know there's a system out there where there's a bus coming every 10 minutes and it's going to be easy to get on and off, they no longer have to plan their trips. The convenience factor, the frequency factor becomes the sort of actualization of easy use of transit. So I want the board to have that in mind as we think about our next project, which is the Gold Line. And since the voters approved Prop 1 back in 2015, we've been in a really strong position financially to be able to make these investments and improve mobility within the county. And finally, after many years of working to deliver the green line and the orange line, we're now in a position to take SWIFT into the north part of the county and serve Marysville and Arlington. So thinking about that part of the county, the road structure isn't the best, right? We know I-5 is one speeding ticket or fender bender away from a complete backup every day. We know Highway 9 is a bottleneck. We know the road underneath I-5 and the old bridge connecting to the new bridge in Marysville is the place people overflow to when I-5 is not working well. So the question becomes, what can we do as a transit agency to snake something through there that will increase the people moving capacity of our network? And that's the opportunity that the Gold Line presents. And the question and the challenge for staff is to figure out how to do that in a way that adds value, not just to the transit network, but to the overall functioning of our transportation system. So I wanted to flag that and emphasize that because this is going to be the primary briefing the board gets on the status of the project and the ideas that were taken out to the public in advance of having that conversation with the public starting in September. And so this is your opportunity to hear from the staff, to ask your questions, to gather information and give us some feedback as we get ready to move forward with those public conversations. This won't be the last conversation we have here, and it certainly won't be the last round of public engagement we have with the public. We'll have one final round, third round, when we have a proposed final locally preferred alternative, probably early next year. But it's probably going to be the biggest BRT project we ever try to accomplish because of its length and the complexity of the corridor. We are planning it as a federally funded project, and we think federal funding is probably fundamental to our ability to deliver it. So we're excited to give you a report today on where we are and what our thinking is and what will be taken out to the public in the days ahead or in the months ahead. Not to be lost in the briefing, we'll also be touching briefly on the Green Line. We have some active work underway, as you know, to extend the Green Line, and we want to update you on that as well. So with that introduction, I'm happy to turn it over to Morgan to give the report.
All right. You can hear me all right? Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Rick. Again, my name is Morgan McGrath, manager of the SWIFT program at Community Transit. We'll be going over quite a few things. Really, the meat and potatoes of today's presentation will be the SWIFT Gold Line and focusing on the community engagement, which is why I have my colleague here, Chelsea, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chelsea Angaro. I'm the community engagement manager, so I'll be talking about the community engagement portions of the SWIFT Gold Line.
All right, so we'll get things going. I know you're all familiar of our lovely SWIFT Orange Line, but just to remind you, we launched this last March. Providing service from Mill Creek, Linwood to Edmonds College. And then we have the SWIFT Blue Line extension, and that extension extended from Aurora Village Transit Center. It was the Blue Line extension. I don't know if I said that. From the Aurora Village Transit Center down to Shoreline North 185th, connecting to Sound Transit's light rail. And as Rick was mentioning, we're seeing that frequency in those connections to local and regional services really matters. And we're seeing that in the change from what you're looking at right now is Q2 of 2024 to Q2 of 2025. And overall, the SWIFT network is seeing a 20% increase of average weekly boardings. So that's 17,000 more riders per week. Notably, the SWIFT Orange Line is taking up a big chunk of that at an increase of 40% or 8,000 riders per week. And then the SWIFT Blue and Green are also seeing moderate increases. One thing that's interesting is we're seeing a really high increase for the SWIFT Blue ridership on Sundays. We've seen a 26% increase. So that's really interesting and cool. We're seeing people's trends really change. All right. So we'll talk about the SWIFT Gold Line. As Rick was alluding to, and we're all experiencing, Snohomish County is really rapidly growing. And not only is it going to growing now, but it's going to continue to grow for many years to come. The jurisdictional comprehensive plans from Everett, Marysville, and Arlington are also planning for this growth. So you can see these numbers, 57% growth in Everett, 41% in Marysville, and 74% in Arlington. With that growth comes population growth and then resulting of increased traffic. So we really want to provide another way for people to get around. And again, focusing in on that reliability aspect. So not only just the frequency, but knowing that your next bus is coming and it's going to arrive on time. So what is the SWIFT Gold Line? The SWIFT Gold Line is a 15-mile corridor, bus rapid transit corridor line, providing service from Everett to Marysville up to Arlington. Again, providing all of the SWIFT, SWIFT features that we know today, focusing on that fast, frequent, reliable service. And one thing that we're doing that's different to really making sure that we're future-proofing this system is we're looking at different ways to get around key segments of the corridor. One of those being center running lanes. We'll go in much more detail. But we want to do that in a way that is maintaining the existing capacity for through car general purpose traffic. So not impeding that, just providing another way for people to get around in a reliable fashion that isn't operating their car. All right, so timeline. We are currently kind of in this scoping study phase. We're actually getting ready to come back to you guys in a short bit for the preliminary design and environmental review contract. We'll be in design, so that time period from 25 to 28 includes preliminary and final design, and then we'll go into construction and then targeting service launch in 2031. As Rick mentioned, federal funding is going to be essential for this project, and we're currently planning for this to be a federally funded project through the Capital Investment Grants CIG Small Starts process. This is that same program that was used on the Swift Orange Line and the Swift Green Line projects, and anticipated to cover quite a significant portion of funds for this project. So you can kind of see there's like one large piece of project development before we can move into that construction grant agreement. So to kick things off, to get into project development, we need to submit for request to entry into PD. And that's really that first stage, which we actually just did this week. So following that, we'll go into preliminary design and engineering shortly thereafter. Towards the end of the PD process, we'll be finalizing our locally preferred alternative. Chelsea will be sharing a little bit more of how that will feed into our community engagement plan. In 2027, we'll be completing our capital investment grant application, and then we won't hear back until about early 2028 to feel out what the rating will be and what the eligibility will be for recommended funds. From there, we'll go into project readiness, this is where the FTA will then review our more project controls, third-party agreements, and confirm that we're ready to go into that next step, which was construction. So then once we are ready, getting that construction grant agreement executed is really that key to then getting the procurement process for construction kicked off and moving into construction, and then ultimately targeting the 2031 revenue service. All right. So in our next phase of engagement, we're going to be focusing in on the proposed station locations and bus lane options. So we'll be going through each of those in a little bit more detail and sharing a little bit for some advantages and potentially disadvantages for each solution. So for the gold line, you can see we've added on the layer now showing where the station pairs could be placed. We're planning for approximately 17 station pairs along the corridor, and then we'll have 2 Swift stations at Everett Swift stations at Everett Station and Smoky Point Transit Center, respectively. We will have some crossover with the Swift Blue Line, additionally beyond Everett Station, but at that existing Pacific and Colby station. And then we're planning a provisional station with that future Everett Outdoor Event Center at Pacific and McDougal. All right, so now we've added on another layer to the Gold Line corridor map. This is showing you where we're looking at center running bus lanes. And so you can see that darker area along the map at Everett and Broadway is approximately where that 2-mile dedicated lane could be implemented all the way up to Broadway and 10th Avenue. From there, we'll continue across the 529 bridge, getting into Marysville. And then again, you can see where we would have that area where we're looking at dedicated center bus lanes. That would have started approximately State and First, give or take, and then going up to about 84th. The reason for that gap from about 84th to 92nd is right around the 88th intersection. It's really snug. You're up against the railway and a cemetery, so there's just not a lot of room to do any modifications there. I did want to highlight we would continue along Schultes Road and then 51st over to 172nd and Smoky Point Transit Center. We still do have that future expansion highlighted to the north. So there's as a development continues to grow, especially along Smoky Point Boulevard, we do want to make sure that we're not precluding that as an option. So we're being sensitive to that station placement at 43rd. I should also note that all of these proposed station locations are at the intersection level. So at this point in our design, we don't have those quite refined. Those will be really sussed out in the preliminary design contract that we have ahead. So these are at the intersection level. Okay, so what have we learned so far? In those areas you saw the blue kind of 4.5 mile or so miles, we looked at a few things, not only center running lanes, but we looked at curbside and mixed traffic there. We looked at business access and transit lanes or BAT lanes, and then center running transit only lanes as well. So really our analysis have showed that center running lanes provides the greatest opportunity for federal funding for this project. They balance the need for maintaining existing traffic through lanes, but they also provide the option and improvements for safety for drivers along the corridor, and then also pedestrian safety along the corridor as well. Okay, so just to start with what the curbside and mixed traffic looks like, you can see this out there across the network in Swift and local service implementation. This is where the buses are operating in that far curbside lane. They might be stopping in lane with a station just on the curb. One of the common kind of friction points is that, say the bus has stopped, now cars behind them might be trying to maneuver around, especially if there's a right turn ahead, maybe they're cutting off the bus, or, what have you. The other thing that this doesn't necessarily help is long-term, as traffic continues to grow and our population growth grows with that, we're really susceptible to reliability issues and increased travel times. So that's one of the drawbacks we have here. That can really result in potentially reduced ridership, potentially higher operational costs because you have to plan for additional needs without having that reliability. And it doesn't have as many opportunities to improve safety along the corridor for both drivers and pedestrians. All right, business access and transit lanes. Those again are those dedicated outside curb lanes that are for cars turning right, and then buses continue to use this as a through lane. This is the biggest drawback to using this in the areas that we had identified along the corridor, is that it removes one through lane of traffic in each direction, which results in heavy impacts to general purpose traffic, especially as we continue to grow and congestion continues to build. It really results in unfavorable impacts in that regard. Okay, center running lanes. So what you're seeing on the screen right here is a single bi-directional, so it's shared lane for the buses to use going both directions. So in this case, hypothetically along Broadway or a State, it'd be north-south. The buses would then pass each other at predetermined locations. In this case, you're seeing it at a station. We also have one single shared station platform for customers to use. So they'd be all gathering at one station and then boarding and alighting from that same platform. Some of the benefits here are that this can be implemented where you have potentially less space just available within that corridor. This still maintains the same number of existing through lanes. It creates a signalized left turn lane, so some improved safety for vehicles turning left. And with the increased reliability, this can result in higher ridership. It can create additional safety implications for throughout the corridor and pedestrian improvements. And yeah, I think that the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about how you would access it. I know that's sometimes can be tricky. So this is a still image of the same concept we were just looking at. And so if you were crossing the street and you wanted to access the station, you would cross the crosswalk just like you were. You'd get to that pedestrian refuge island and you would turn left in this left is my left to the station and then board the bus that you in the direction that you were trying to go. One thing that I will note, we are maintaining right door boarding here. And so one thing you might notice is that the buses are running contraflow or opposite of traffic. But that's really to maintain that we don't have a specific subfleet just for the Gold Line. Okay, so here's the similar concept, although now we have another lane. So we have 2 lanes that are dedicated for transit use only. This would be only able to be implemented within the city of Everett. I guess I should have also noted the single lane is only in the city of Everett or city of Marysville and Everett. In this case, this would only be an option for that southern segment along Broadway. Here we have 2 split stations, so that you would access it on either side of the road. Buses are operating in a normal fashion with traffic. Again, we're maintaining the same number of throughput lanes. We are able to have signalized left turns. And yeah, this option provides the greatest reliability and travel time savings for our bus operations due to the nature of just not having to worry about if the single bidirectional block is clear. So that is a significant improvement in this case. And then here's that same still image. This is with the 2 lanes this time. So what you're seeing is that one split station. So this is not the center for both directions. It's just for the one going north, I guess, in this case. And pedestrians would access it in the same way. The other nice thing about even if you weren't necessarily trying to catch the bus, it is a pretty wide corridor. And so maybe you wanted to take a break or you ran out of time on the crossing, you do have that pedestrian refuge island to kind of wait by, creating a nice safety for pedestrians. So before I hand it over to Chelsea, I did want to note just like those are the 3 options that we've studied, how they could function and what their potential benefits are and how that the center running lanes really do have the greatest opportunity for the maximum number of benefits to all different users.
Thanks, Morgan. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we've been coordinating with jurisdictions on this project. So the project team has been coordinating with the jurisdictions throughout the scoping study, but we've recently been engaged with the cities of Everett, including Everett Transit, City of Marysville, and City of Arlington about this upcoming engagement period, which I'm going to tell you a bit more about. We met with the city of Everett earlier this month, and we're meeting with Marysville and Arlington next week, where we reviewed the community engagement plan and approach, as well as some key engagement materials, which you can see displayed here, including a cool sidewalk decal. And then the project team will also be engaging with the jurisdictions about the preliminary design contract details, as that is the next phase of the project. Now I'm going to dive a little bit more into the community engagement approach. So we have a multi-phased engagement process. We completed the first phase last year. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And we're about to go into that second phase of engagement. And then we have 2 more following that. So last summer, we engaged in what we call phase 1, where we talked to people about the route alignment. So we had multiple options for the route through the Marysville area, and we asked for input on those, as well as introduced the project to folks. It was very new for a lot of people. We had nearly 2,700 folks visit our online open house, talked to more than 450 people in person, and got 235 comments and surveys through that. We had folks tell us to prioritize and improve roadway safety, improve the flow of traffic, improve pedestrian infrastructure, and continue to explore those center running transit only lanes. So we kind of introduced that concept during phase 1. So in the upcoming phase 2, which we're planning for September 4th through October 2nd, we'll be talking to people about those proposed station locations and the bus lane options. So the center running transit only lanes, the BAT lanes, or just running in curbside that Morgan just reviewed. There's a lot on this slide because our engagement approach is a lot. This isn't even all of the things that we're doing, but these are a variety of tactics that we're using. The main hub for our engagement is the online open house, which is essentially a website, or if you will imagine going to an open house, but it's in a virtual environment. And there's a survey there as well. We're using a variety of other online tactics. Next month, there will be a That Transit Show episode about Swift Gold Line featuring Morgan. Be sure to watch it. We also will be engaging with folks on the bus and at stops. I mentioned those sidewalk decals, so those are kind of on the sidewalks along the corridor, brack cards on buses, etc. We'll also be doing a variety of notifications, including digital rider alerts where we're reaching existing riders that might become Swift Gold Line riders in the future, and also a postcard mailing, because we know a lot of people might not be using local service. So people in the corridor area will get a mailed postcard to direct them to that online open house. We'll also be out and about in the community at neighborhood meetings, libraries, farmers markets, and briefings with elected officials and businesses. And we're doing some partnerships with community-based organizations to help us reach more vulnerable populations. And we'll also make sure that we are keeping our internal folks updated so they can answer questions about the project. So coming back to this multi-phased approach, following this phase 2, which we'll complete in October, next year we'll be coming back to talk to folks about the preliminary design. So that contract that Morgan mentioned, they'll put together some designs and we'll share that information with people that will really show in more detail what this could look like. And then later next year, we will come back to ask for input on the draft locally preferred alternative. So that is the route, the station locations, and the mode, or like how we would operate the bus. So center running transit only lanes versus BAT lanes, et cetera. And we'll ask for input on that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Morgan.
All right, I know we've thrown a lot of dates at you and a lot of different timelines. So just to summarize, kind of a quick lens of when you're going to be hearing back from me and getting additional updates. So we have the board updates and actions that we're assuming for the next 2 years. There'll probably be more, but so obviously we're here today. We'll be coming back to you very shortly for kicking off the phase 2 engagement period and then starting that preliminary design and environmental review contract in the upcoming months. In 2026, we'll be working through our preliminary design and then also starting our phase 3 and phase 4 engagement that have that associated draft locally preferred alternative and then the board adopted LPA. And then in 27, we're anticipating starting that, coming back and starting the final design, and then we'll continue to provide you guys with project updates, and I'm sure there'll be also some funding updates as well, sprinkled in there. So that's really what we've got on tap for the next 2 years. Before I move on, if you have any specific burning questions, I'm more than welcome to take those for the gold line. Up to you. I wasn't sure if we should reserve time for.
Yeah, great presentation. Very excited about the gold line. A lot of good work going into this. I just want to, and Rick's been great communicating, as well as your whole team with, staff. So thank you for the ongoing communication with all of us. On the starting design and environmental review, is that like taking it to a 30% design or?
Yeah, so we'll be starting, it'll be 10% first.
10%,
So
yeah,
we'll go to
okay.
10%, and then that's really kind of when we're going to come back out with that next phase of engagement, phase 3 in 2026.
Okay, and that's where you'll kind of hone in on what design or what style, as far as the center running lane and what, or
Yeah.
what option is going to be.
Yeah, I think we obviously heavily coordinating
Yeah.
with Marysville and Everett. But I think the thing that's everyone's been burning question of, like, what are the impacts going to be?
Right.
How would this really look in the corridor? And this contract will allow us to answer a lot
So
of those questions.
okay, that was so the starting design and environmental will kind of answer a lot of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you.
I think you kind of answered a little bit on John's. I was just curious how Everett feels about the center lane down Broadway, because you're taking out a lot of the center turn lanes. And considering they have Everett Transit, are they going to use the same center lane? Are they able to use it just because right? I know Marysville will be all over it and probably Arlington. I just didn't know how on board Everett was with that.
So in the 2 center running lane option, we could they could also utilize it, but it's really up to them if they wanted to utilize the center lane or if they want to maintain operating in the curbside, or what their service changes might look like by that time as well.
Thank you.
Add to Morgan's answer, we've been meeting frequently with Everett staff as well as Arlington and Marysville staff. And so we're working through these concepts with them at a staff level and at a principal level and keeping them informed. So their level of knowledge is keeping pace with the process. There's some opportunities here for Everett Transit to think about how to leverage this investment for their network. And they have other capital improvement project priorities in the corridor that they're discussing internally that they might consider coordinating with this project. So there's a robust conversation going on between Morgan and Christopher and the team. And
kind of like a stadium maybe? Or?
Well, and all those pedestrian and bike safety improvements in that corridor. So.
Megan?
Thank you. I know there's a lot of pedestrian improvements planned around the college, the Everett Community College and UW, WSU. So great that there's that coordination so that it's not, build something and then tear it down and put something new up. I did have a question. Did you consider going up, no offense, but up the west side and into Tulalip, or having like some stops there and moving the line over at some point?
I wasn't around in the very beginning, but I do know, based on kind of the key trip destinations and having a direct path, and seeing what our 201 and 202 ridership looked like, I think that really drove kind of the identifying the 9 different alternatives that we had in our preliminary scope and study, and then we narrowed those down to those 3 options that Chelsea shared in that phase 1.
I will also say during phase 1, we presented those 3 options, and one of the most common things we heard was make it as direct as possible.
Yeah.
So that route was part of the initial 9 or no? Or a route up to Tulalip?
That wasn't what
That's
we
not-
presented to the community, no.
I think we'll have Christopher come up because he was managing the project back then.
Yeah, so we didn't have that as one of the original options. The rationale behind that was that we would be doing 2 additional railroad crossings. And in the interest of Swift, being Swift, we didn't want to be in a position that we would find ourselves having to cross the railroad tracks multiple times and finding ourselves in a position that we couldn't maintain reliability. So, yeah.
I'm going to ask Sid, did you have any questions online? I'll take that as a no. Okay.
All right, well, I'll keep us going. I know I just didn't want to change the topic too much. So we will continue along on the Green Line extension. So the Green Line extension is going to extend the Green Line from Canyon Park Park and Ride to downtown Bothell and beyond. So kind of a few different colors you'll see on the screen. We have proposed Swift stations at 228th, 240th. We have a future infill station at 201st and then at Reeder Way. Those following 3 blue boxes are going to be Sound Transit's stride stations that they will be constructing, but Swift will also be stopping at. We'll have Swift signage and payment at those facilities as well. And then beyond, we will have the Southern Terminal that is a separate project that I'll talk about in just a second. One thing I wanted to highlight is with the Swift Green Line extension, 2 of the stations, so 240th and Reeder Way, are within the City of Bothell's multimodal improvements project, and their timelines heavily correlate with ours. We've successfully embedded ourselves into their project, and we've been working hand in hand to do design reviews. We've just kicked off our internal preliminary design contract, and we have a kickoff coordination effort scheduled with them next week. And what that's doing is really expediting the design, and we're avoiding any sort of rework in the future. And it's been a really successful partnership. So we've been really happy. And yeah, I just wanted to really highlight their efforts. Okay. And then the Southern Terminal facility, that will continue somewhere east of the 405. This is going to be a future facility that will not only support the Green Line, but it will support local service. It will include an operator restroom, layover bays, and future opportunity charging. The site of this will be selected during that final kind of planning phase of our preliminary design contract that we're going to get going on in upcoming months. And yeah, then the next slide shows that Bothell project and then the Green Line extension project and how those 2 timelines really intersect. So Bothell multimodal project is currently in final design. We're getting going with our preliminary design. We'll enter final design next year. They're going to start their construction. They have a 3-phased approach. And phases 1 and 2 are where our stations are within their roadway. So they'll start their construction, and then shortly thereafter, we can come in and do the placement of the Swift station kits, so the shelter, the amenities, etc., and launch our service right after that. Okay. Any final questions? Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? No? Wow.
Chair, I had a
Proceeded.
I did have a quick, I'm sorry. I did have a quick question back to one of the statements that was made earlier about the increase in ridership of the Swift Blue Line on Sundays. And I'm just wondering, what do you think is driving that?
I'm inclined to think it's behavior. People's behaviors are shifting, and they're riding transit more often. And it's because we're making that connection to light rail. It's an option to join into the city. It's an option to go to an event or see a friend.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Well, thank you, Morgan and Chelsea, for your presentation. It was great. And I'm looking forward to, well, looking at the timeline, I guess I'm probably not gonna be around when they finally get Gold Line up and running, but seems like a long time away.
2030.
Yeah, but I only have
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
4 more years, so
Oh, I thought you were making for-
no, no. Okay, so let's go and move on to the chair's report before I get in trouble. An audit exit conference is scheduled for July 30th at 3 p.m. The meeting is open to the public and optional for board members. I believe that's a Zoom meeting. The next regular meeting is scheduled for August 7th at 3 p.m. We do not have an executive session planned. Then I will move on to board communications. Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah, I run a monthly human service provider call, so it's a regional effort to look at to bring together different human service providers. But we went over, there's a hub for cold weather or cooling centers, and those are free rides. So we heard from Tyler Verda with Office of Human Services. So he just highlighted that there's free rides on community transit to those centers. So there's a really great website that has all the regional services and all the operation times for those cooling centers. So as we're coming into the hot weather and people need a free ride to those, that's a good resource. So just wanted to make board members aware. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. Mayor Frizzell.
Nothing today.
Mayor Marine.
I've got nothing.
Councilmember Merrill.
I have nothing.
Mayor Naring.
Nothing to add. Thanks.
This is going quick. Councilmember Schweddy.
Well, can I report on the PSRC? Okay, because that's going to take me more than a minute. Everybody should have the handout, including the staff, right? Okay. At PSRC and the Transportation Policy Board, we've spent the last 4 years looking at and building the transportation plan and identifying the revenue and the projects we need to get to 2050. What we found right away was we had a 21% gap in revenue, which amounts to $78 billion. And we are finally down to looking at several specific scenarios, and hopefully we'll have a decision made this fall. We do not meet next month, but we will meet in September. And trust me, they've been getting all this out. What I gave to you, they actually didn't send out to the board until after the meeting. But if you have any questions, you can let me know. There are 3 scenarios that we're looking at. And then the new revenue sources. And if you will see, number 3 is an increase in sales tax for local transit agencies. Now, with this coming out after our board meeting, I haven't been able to ask what that looks like. I know that someone had, I think it was Melissa, but wanted to know what that looked like because she knew that they were going to do that. But what I don't know is, yes, it says 11.1 billion, but I don't know what percent that is and where that's coming from. I just know that it's transit. We will continue to discuss this. I know one of the things that I've pushed for, and they weren't explicit in this, when they're increasing the vehicle fees and taxes, I have really pushed hard on adding more taxes for semis. And the reason for that is those semis are what destroying our roads. And what we'll have to decide at the board is whether we're going to go for all of the projects or whether we're going to have to cut some because we're not going to go with all of the revenue sources. The one that was kind of surprising to me that I don't even remember coming up at a meeting was the very last one, and that's the retail delivery fees. So that means that if you order a pizza and they bring it to your house, you're going to have to pay extra taxes for it. So I will keep you informed as we go along. I don't expect a major decision to be made before the end of the year, but I do believe that we will be hopefully moving in a particular direction. And so if anyone has any specific things they would like me to add at those meetings, please let me know. Because it's pretty complicated. And I couldn't tell you right now, if you asked me which ones I'm going with, I couldn't tell you. We spent 3.5 hours the other day talking about it, and I figure we're going to be doing that again. So it's been interesting. And by the way, the Transportation Policy Board governs all 4 counties, Kitsap, Pierce, King, and Snohomish, not the whole state. This is just the 4 counties. And so that makes a difference too.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gallagher, anything from you? All right. Is there any other further business to bring before the board, either staff or the board?
I just wanted to thank you, Councilmember Daughtry, for pinch hitting for me today. I appreciate it.
I did the same thing you do and forget what's online. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Could I say one last thing?
Sure.
That if somebody could pass along to our coach operators, Monday night, all of you know about the fire along I-5 from Marysville all the way up to Stanwood. What no one said anything about was the fact that they shut down I-5, which meant that all the roads from Marysville to Stanwood were completely blocked. And to tell you, and I already told John this, I was in South Marysville, and it took me 2.5 hours to get to Arlington. And there was at one point I was on Highway 9 that I sat there for half an hour, but I saw our buses and they were sitting in those same lines. And if anyone could know any of the bus drivers that drive that northern section, would you please tell them how much we appreciate the fact that they just don't drive buses. They end up having to deal with what everybody else does. And it was a total, complete nightmare for hours and hours. And I thought about them when I saw the buses because they weren't moving. And I'm sure it was a long time before they did. And oh, well, Stan's up there, but going all the way to Stanwood and everything. But if you see any of those drivers, please say thank you because they were sitting in those buses for hours.
All right, anything else? Anybody? Crickets? Okay, we are adjourned.